Being poor is very expensive. Have you ever thought about that? How expensive it is to be poor? The cost of living for a poor person, the cost of being poor, the opportunity cost of being poor, and what it does to your mind. Welcome back, guys. This is Madness in Nigeria Living, and I'm your host, JC. And for some of you, this is the first time you're going to be seeing me. Yeah, this is the fine boy, the beautiful, gorgeous soul. But today is not a joking matter. You see, the thing with being poor here is, first of all, nobody wants to be poor. But being richer is really, really cheaper than being poor. And that's the part about being poor that is no cost word, but insert it there. And that's the thing though. You know, some people call it ghetto tax or the poor man tax. And the tax go about in many ways. But the first one I want to talk about is the money cost. How expensive it is to actually be poor. Have you ever tried buying one tissue paper? If you buy a full carton of the tissue paper, you save money. You save the cost of buying one extra or two extra. If you buy a lorry load of it, you save a lot of money. That's even assuming you can afford to buy tissue papers. And in a country like Nigeria, where the middleman no longer exists, the middle class is becoming a myth. Slower and slower every day. We go from just the rich to the poor. It's very important to know what being poor is like. Because the truth is, if you want to cook a food, you want to cook a very good food, the cost of buying meat in bulk makes it cheaper. That's assuming you can even store the food. And this is where being poor is very tricky. You can't buy in bulk because you don't have the money to buy in bulk. Even if you can buy in bulk, do you have the place to store in bulk? And you don't. So you have to buy little, and the little usually costs more. But it's not usually the fault of people you're buying it from. It's from the fact that people you're buying it from have to make better margin. So if you have a kiosk, you have a small store, and you buy a product that the unit price of the product is 900 naira. If you sell it at 910 naira, 10 naira margin is too small. So what do? You sell it at 1,000. And the person buying it from you at 1,000 will spend way more money than the person that will go to ShopRite to buy the same product for 950. But they are not even buying it for 950 as an individual product. They are buying in bulk. That's where being poor comes in. The cost of living, or cost, is one of my most interesting part about doing economics. There was a time when I was in SS1 also, my economic teacher was telling us about cost, and it was like there are two types of cost. There's money cost and there's opportunity cost. Money cost is the actual cost, the real life money you spend to get something. Opportunity cost in economics is called the alternative foregone, what you have to give up just to get something. There was one time I was on a Twitter space and I was talking to a particular girl. She was talking from the viewpoint that she went to a private uni and she didn't come from a well-to-do family. So she said that dad took loan to send her to the private uni, and that's why when she was there, she couldn't really socialize. She just had to focus on her books to get first class. And I was like, that's opportunity cost. And if I could advise your dad before he did that, I would have advised him not to do that. And she was like, what does that mean? I was like, the only benefit of going to a private school is the social network you meet there. The people you will meet there that might help you later. But if the cost of going there is too expensive for you to socialize, then you are paying extra cost. You are paying extra money to go to a school to have a degree that will have no value to you if you don't have people that can make the degree have value to you. And that's why being poor is very expensive, because her dad took a loan to send her to school that she cannot even socialize. The only real benefit of going to that school, because if you are looking at the certificate only, then I can dare and say a private school is really not so different from a federal school, especially in Nigeria. So why go through all that to lose the opportunity? That's the tax of being poor. And we have not spoken about the mental tax of being poor. But before that, let's talk about it. See, for a lot of people here in Nigeria, because Nigeria is a very poor country, we don't go for checkup. We don't go for medical checkup because it costs too much to check on your health when you're not really sick. It seems like a no-brainer. Why spend money on yourself when you're not sick yet? The problem is your body is a machine, and sometimes it needs maintenance. And when you don't do regular maintenance, on the long run, the machine, the engines will want the fee. But that's where being poor comes back to. Cost what there. But that's the thing though. If you can't go for regular checkup and it costs what's there, God. I just noticed I use a lot of cuss words. If you can't go for regular checkup because it's too expensive, and then when you're older, it comes back to cuss words again. Jesus Christ. Okay. I'm yet to decide if I want to be using cuss words, but I use cuss words a lot in my everyday conversation, so this is tricky. I'll keep this in it. Okay, so if you can't go for regular checkup because it's too expensive, and not going for regular checkup has adverse effect on you on the long run, you can see why not going is bad. But then again, you can't necessarily go because you are thinking about the money you need for your daily meals, for your daily commute. That's why being poor is so expensive. It not only robs you of your now, it also robs you of your future. You pay for your now with your future. And that's why it comes as no surprise that the poorer the country is, the lower the age of mortality. Your newborn baby is more likely to die. Your adult is more likely to die at a younger age. What's the life expectancy of in Nigeria? Compare that to the life expectancy of someone from Switzerland. It's not like they are aliens or anything. They are humans like us, but because the cost of living is so bad, you can't do the regular things that can increase your cost of living. And that also comes around to cost what's there. See the thing here. Dessert, food, and every other thing. When you come from a poorer economy, the food that is available to you is very limited. You are more likely to eat the same type of food over and over again, which leads to a situation wherein you don't get the necessary nutrient to survive. And that's why when you come from that kind of economy, the 8 weeks from just being poor is a lot. That's how expensive it is to be poor. And I'm just talking about it. I've not talked about lack of infrastructures. I've not talked about the fact that we live in an information age, and people from poorer environments are not even open enough to get this information. I remember the last time I went back home, there was one guy that used to live in my street, and we were talking, and I was like, if not for Yahoo fraud, by the way, if not for fraud, how would he have ever dreamed of making enough money to leave the street? Because he came from a poor family. And the truth is, with the kind of opportunity dealt to him just because he's poor, it's really difficult for you to have the kind of opportunity to change your situation. That doesn't mean poor people don't make it out. That doesn't mean poor people don't make it out of the wood. It just means, on an average, you're less likely to make it out of the wood because you don't have the opportunity to even make it out to begin with. There was this artist in my secondary school then. I don't know where he is now. He might be big. I'm just saying, I don't know where he is. But he was a very talented artist, and he was amputated in one of his hands. So imagine an artist with one amputated and one hand. That's the kind of story you can milk in the art world, especially at a very young age. That's the kind of opportunity. If it was a rich kid, no worry. No other reason, no worry. His name will be everywhere. And like I said, I don't know where he is right now, but these are where being poor is so expensive. And there are a lot of angles. I can talk about it from different angles. I don't know if you have noticed by now, this thing is not scripted. I'm just saying it from my head. And that's where is F word. Curse words. The other day, not the other day, if I'm being honest, as at the time of me recording, yesterday, on my way back from buying, I went to buy some food stuff to prepare something. On my way back, there was a guy that just stopped me. He was like, bro, it's half an hour. I'm like, half an hour waiting this up. I was still working because I can't be caught lacking. And then the guy was just asking me for money and this or that. But what I find interesting from that conversation was the fact that the moment the guy stopped me to talk to me, I had my phone tighter. I started automatically calculating everywhere I can escape from. I started paying attention to everybody walking past, every other person that might have been in my shadow, to see if it's a setup. And then I started thinking about it. Is this the reality for a lot of people? I don't think it's the reality for a lot of Nigerians. But it was the reality from my environment, because we were very poor people living in an environment. When you're in a poor environment like we did from Warrior and stuff, you see that a lot of people, because of the environment, turned to a life of crime. And when you live in an environment where the crime rate is higher because of poverty, even if you are not a part of the crime rate, you are forever haunted by it because you are forever vigilant. And that's why in psychology they'll tell you, if you look at the symptoms of CPTSD, the average poor person have it on his stead. Meaning being poor is childhood trauma. But that's not to make light of childhood trauma. That's just to show that being able to have your basic amenities meet helps reduce the chances of you being traumatized as a child. Now, there are rich people that have their own childhood trauma from their parents not being available. I'm not focusing on that. I'm just focusing on the fact that if your parents are struggling to survive, when they come back, they are less likely to have a smile on their face. They are less likely to be loving. And that's why you are more likely to be traumatized. That's another cost of being poor. Now that I've spoken about the different costs of being poor, what can we do about it? I would have loved to be optimistic and tell you some bullshit and maybe pray, talk about the government and tell you, nah. The reality is Nigeria is only getting poorer. And the reality of that is it might only get worse from here. So do what you will with this information. I'm not ending it on a high note. It's just the reality. I'm just stating it as it is. That's going to be the reality. So we just have to maybe navigate it and see how that goes. But that's it, guys. Thanks for coming. This is my first time doing this format video. You're looking at me looking at you. I think I'm actually looking at the camera. And why am I topless? I'm more comfortable topless, generally speaking. So I felt like for the first time I'm doing this, I want to be in my most comfortable element. I'm more comfortable being naked. And that's why I'm half naked. And maybe next time. I don't think this format will be regular, maybe once a month. But I'm just giving it a try. Tell me what you think down in the comment below. Yeah. Huh. I just thought about another thing. What if I didn't hit record before this? This would be funny.